Tonie Show episode.
Episode 24.
Yes, Tony Davis.
Indeed.
Welcome.
Indeed. Welcome to you too.
And we're back with another Flyway cool new keywords article of our famous author,
Phil Factor.
Phil Factor. That's the man. He the man.
So he has written about how to detect database drift using Flyway snapshots.
Yeah. And actually the getting the snapshots into this drift story is an interesting story, but we're gonna get to that after we've checked out the fancy diagram.
Yes. So drift detection it traditionally means, or typically means, I'm just about to do a deployment. Is the target database, is the production database still in the state I think it should be in?
Or else it would be drift.
Or else it would be drift. Yes. So so in this example, when I successfully deployed version 3 with Flyway to production, I took a snapshot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I stored that somewhere. When I came to deploy version 4, I first checked that my production database matches that snapshot. And if it does, there's no drift, and version 4 deployment can go ahead and all is cool. If there was drift, that could cause a deployment error. You need to know what is it significant drift? What caused that drift?
And eventually you should have that change if you want to keep it in your source control so it won't be detected as drift again.
Exactly. If it's significant drift, yeah, like if somebody did a hot fix, you must make sure you backport that into. Really, you should backport it into the
your source control
repository and test it again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But then
it could just be like somebody changed some documentation.
Yeah, but still, if it's only in the production database, it should go in your single source of truth.
Yes.
Your repository. But back to the snapshot, because the cliffhanger. Because What is a snapshot? And it's not a SQL Server snapshot. No, a snapshot is, well, like it says here, essentially a freeze frame of the state of your database at a specific moment in time.
Yes.
Stored in just one tiny little file.
Very lightweight file. Doesn't
contain no data. No data. Yep. That's why it's lightweight. It's just actually your create database script if you would script it from SQL Server Management Studio, right?
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah, so it's very lightweight. It just says, okay, this is what my schema should look like. And there's two methods to detect drift that are now built into Flyway with the check drift command. One is a snapshot one we've just discussed.
Yep.
The second says that actually add migrations are the source of truth. So if I rebuilt version 3 from scratch in the build environment, that's what I would check my my VV production database against to say, are they still the same? If they are, there's no drift. So that's the other way you can do it. And it's just simply defining the source of your comparison differently.
Yeah, so A, with snapshots.
B,
with all your migration files stacked on each other on an empty database.
Exactly right, in the build environment. Yep.
Cool.
And he goes through to demonstrate both of those techniques. So here's the first one, the snapshot.
Yeah, it's a snapshot. And the snapshot is in JSON. And I know from earlier drift articles or drift detection I made myself, it was based on SQL compare with SQL snapper and an SMP file, so a snap file.
Yeah.
But now it's a JSON file, which in this example is compared to production.
Yeah.
And
so all this technology has been around for a while, and it's just it's now built into the Flyway check drift command, and it also supports not just SQL Server. So it's
exactly, and you don't have
it's all based on schema comparison. It's all based on schema comparison.
And you don't have to think about what your technology you're going to use, because you just run it with your Flyway command, and then you get your comparison out of it. And this output, this drift report, is in JSON and in HTML. And if you scroll just a little bit down, see another example. But we can also see this out of process change.
Yeah, so somebody's gone in and added this. I mean, this is just a simple example. Somebody's gone in and added a view. So out of the controller pro, they did not run this through Flyway. They just went in and said, "Oh, I have to fix this view or fix this thing on the production server." I've just done that. When you've done the drift check, you're saying, "I didn't expect that to be there. It now exists." And then in this case, you would probably, like we said, have to backport that into version control and run it through your test pipeline again.
And it doesn't matter if you use the snapshot or the migration based approach, right? You
No,
will get this report anyway,
exactly right. Exactly right. And the
as long
report
as
will
it's
always
not
stop.
expected in one of the two sources.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool, cool, cool. But you also ran into another problem, right, Tony?
Well, I did, yeah. So this is the example report, just very briefly, because this won't be something most people will encounter too often. But I mean, if you don't have automated processes yet, or particularly good source control processes in place, and I think there are still teams who perhaps that's true, you could get caught out by not just drift in the target, the production, but drift in your source,
Oh,
because Flyway does support unversioned migration files, and in this one I had made a change which I'd forgotten about, and I wasn't using Git control processes, so it was, I'd made a change to repeatable, and that shows up as a kind of when you're using the migrations as a source. Snapshot detection couldn't detect this, but if you're using the migrations, it comes up as kind of a reverse drift, as drift in the source. There's an unexpected change in this repeatable.
because the reportable was changed, and then you run all your migrations, including this repeatable, on an empty
Exactly right.
database.
Yes, but because it's
Yeah,
not version repeatable, it still produces v3 of the database. I compare it to the target,
yeah,
and
yeah.
now it's saying to me, actually, this version of the procedure is what I tested in actual and approved, but actually what's going to be released is not that.
Okay, but Phil also has an answer on that one. So the other
Yeah,
examples we were talking about are mainly about deployment and deployment pipelines and checking if
that's
you
when you'll
drifted.
mainly use it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
where the built-in drift checks is for.
your confession you just made wouldn't be necessary if you did the proper drift detection during development.
You could catch it during development. You absolutely would. Yes. So if you scroll down a little bit,
Yeah, here another.
oh yes, this is it. Yes. So this was an
It's
example of
some
a drift.
comparison keywords you can use or commands to avoid other problems. But
But
let's
that's an
focus.
example of drift that isn't drift,
Yeah,
because it's just
but let's focus on the drifting during development because that's an interesting one.
yes, yes. So Phil's point is that, yeah, okay, you'll do this in a release pipeline to detect drift in the target, but it's actually, if you've got a nice lightweight ad hoc way to do ad hoc drift checks during development, that can actually stop some problems as well. So, and that's what he talks about. It can stop this problem of like, what I tested is not what I released, or just discrepancies between environments. I have a test database that says it's v3 and a development database that says it's v3. Are they actually the same? Are
And
you testing the right thing?
yeah,
So he does an ad hoc drift check, and he just uses the diff command in its raw form. So that's what's going on under the covers in the check drift command. But you can just say, well, just do a diff between this snapshot and this database. They should be the same. The way he gets that to work is that every time Flyway successfully produces a new version,
he
he
stores it.
captures that snapshot and stores it
Yeah.
and gives it a version number. So he always knows what v3 should look like, what v4 should look like.
Well, that's an interesting view on it, but it's also interesting to look in the near future to episode 25
Yes,
because episode 25, I think you're going to publish an article I wrote on a new tool that's in beta kindish release where we store those snapshots to detect drifts in the cloud, right?
exactly right. Exactly right. Yes. So that will be coming up next. That'll be an interesting follow up to this one, I reckon.
And it,
Absolutely.
and it will be live a week after you see this release.
Exactly. Episode 25. Tony
At,
Hauser,
it will
Flyway
be
Pipelines.
Flyway Party Pipelines.
Party pipelines. Yes. But in the meantime, take a look at Phil's article. Like I say, if you need to stable, if your deployments are often derailed because there's unexpected, ad hoc fixes to production, this will catch it. It's a lightweight way for developers to adopt this good discipline during development. Give it a read.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing I can say now, till next week, Tony.
Till next week, episode 25.